Josh Bitar from the stands post-fight here after one of the greatest UFC cards we've seen in recent history here at the Star Casino on the Gold Coast, presented by our good friends Howler Head. And I'm joined by the man who was running the show today, running the ship, steering it, most importantly, MCT Tenero Nathan. Mate, one of the biggest fight cards we've ever seen, and boy did it deliver. I guess your immediate thoughts on the fight card itself.
Well, I just want to go back to you saying that I steered the ship. I hope I didn't steer it into the shore, but the atmosphere here at the Star Gold Coast was amazing, and I think when you look at the card itself, it was hyped to be the biggest card in UFC history. It ended up being the biggest card in UFC history. I think when you look at from top to bottom, even the early prelims to the Fight Pass prelims, to the main card, especially that Max Holloway fight. I'm sure we'll get into that later, but goodness gracious me, possibly the best card I've ever seen.
300,000 was the bonuses tonight. I guess fight of the night for you, which one? There was many. I mean, the way Alex Pereira put away Jamal Hill, and I've lost my voice from yelling here because it was the way he said, stop Herb Dean, threw a left hook and knocked out Jamal Hill was incredible. He obviously had the amazing fight with Max Holloway and Justin Gaethje, which we talked about. Many great fights tonight. Which one was your highlight of the night?
Oh, look, I don't think you could go past Max. I think when you look at the guy pointing to the center of the center of the cage, I'm losing my voice too here as well. And then for Justin Gaethje to oblige, and they just said the last 10 seconds we're going to throw down, and then on the buzzer, he hits him with a perfect overhand right, a nice bit of Mike Tyson to the body. I think I threw my shoulder out then, and then the overhand right, sending Gaethje to the canvas. I thought that was magnificent. You could compare that to Michael Jordan hitting a game-winning shot on the buzzer to win the playoffs, and he was demanding $600K. I think it is, and I think Dana White will probably give him 600,000 plus more. He deserves it. So that for me, alongside the main event, which you mentioned, were the big moments of this card.
And the card from start to finish was just, I mean, you had finishes in Yuri Prochazka taking Alexander Rakic, Aljamain Sterling, not a most impressive performance on the prelims. Kayla Harrison looked phenomenal, incredibly dominant tonight. I guess what she did against Holly Holm was, I mean, she is a real contender now at 135, and you got to start looking at her being in the title picture with Amanda Nunes, possible comeback there. Many different options and different routes we could go. Jim Miller, not picking up the win, but nonetheless a great fight between him and Bobby Green. And speaking with Rob today, he thought, Bo Nickal's performance wasn't all that. I guess against a guy like Cody Brundage should have done a lot more. I guess we'll start from the first fight of the main card and we'll work our way to the top. Thoughts on that fight itself?
Oh, look, I'm not going to argue with Rob. He tends to know a little bit more than I do when it comes to this sport, but I think there was a lot of hype with Bo Nickal coming into this fight, and a lot of the fans, even the ones here, as you would have heard, Josh, they were booing the shit out of Bo Nickal as he walked to the cage. It was so loud in here at the sports bar. I thought we were honestly at the arena, but I think from Rob's perspective, he's looking at it from the view of a former and, in my opinion, future champion. I thought Bo Nickal looked fine. I think he did his job, and I think that he's certainly climbing the ranks to one-day contest for that UFC middleweight championship belt. I got a chance to talk to Rob before the fight started, and I said, I think you'll get your chance at Bo Nickal. He corrected me immediately and said he'll get his chance against me. And I think, when Robbie fights Hamzat, I'm sure he'll get the job done there. I think Bo Nickal is a great challenge for Rob, to which I don't see Bo even coming close to beating Rob. But in all honesty, I think Bo did the job against Cody tonight.
Moving on, we had Arman Tsarukyan taking the split decision win over Charles Oliveira in a very close fight, one that, I mean, you could give either way, and that's why it was a split decision. Charles Oliveira obviously finished strong, might have got the finish in the end with the submission, but wasn't to be. It looks like Arman could be poised for a lightweight title shot now against Islam Makhachev after Justin Gaethje losing his spot now, which was a big gamble for him. I guess, what are your thoughts on Arman? Obviously a wonderful performance, a gritty fight, tough one, but moving forward, how do you see him in that lightweight title picture?
Look, I think he slots in quite well. I don't think that you put him against Max Holloway. I think when you knock out a guy like Justin Gaethje, a guy who's never been flatlined like that, we've seen him be stopped in the past, but nothing like what Max did to him tonight. I don't think he can leapfrog Max, but he's certainly in the picture. I didn't necessarily agree with the decision. I don't think anyone here at the sports bar agreed as well. I think that's just because we love Charles so much. And I think Oliveira's got such a personality. His skill level matches the hype around Charles, and I think that a split decision win, look, it certainly slots you into the picture, but I don't think he leapfrogs Max. I wouldn't mind seeing him fight anyone in the top 5 when it comes to Arman. I think he'd probably be ranked around that number 3 mark, but I think a shot against Islam, he has to get in line behind Max.
Is Max Holloway's knockout of Justin Gaethje the greatest knockout you've ever seen?
I think recency bias does play into that. It definitely is one of the best knockouts I've ever seen. But to do it on a card like UFC 300, and you saw Rob's reaction, he was just absolutely stunned. I want to talk about Rob for a minute because obviously he was here for 5 hours. He wanted the theatre to be open at 8 o'clock this morning so he could watch the fight start to finish. And we appreciate him for being not just our special guest of honour, but such a fan of the sport. His reaction has said it all, and I'm sure we got a photo of it. But I got on, I think it was the UFC ESPN, they did a collaboration when Max knocked out Justin Gaethje, and my comment was, where's Ilya? He's gone real quiet since they posted this. Now, I'm not talking trash from my point of view, but I think that's the point. I think when you look at the champions that he called out, Ilya Topuria and Islam Makhachev, I don't think you can argue with that. Max can do whatever he wants to do from this point on.
And sort of moving on, we'll go to the co-main event, which is obviously Zhang Weili defending her title against Zhang Xiaonan. Ended up winning the decision in a back and forth relative fight. I thought the fight should have been stopped at the end of the first round because Zhang Xiaonan was completely out cold. The fact that she got up and continued that fight, made it to the end, is, I mean, if you haven't seen it, you need to go back and watch the end of the first round. She was unconscious and managed to get up and finish the fight and go all 5 rounds. I guess thoughts on Zhang Weili's performance and the end of the first round, if you think it should have been stopped.
Well, surprisingly, I didn't have a problem with this split decision because I'm such a fan of Weili, but I think it was a well-deserved victory. I don't have a problem with the decision because I think when you look at that first round, at any moment the referee probably could have stepped in, even after the bell. He can come in and say, if you are not fit to fight, then he can stop the fight right then and there. We've seen Herb Dean do it. We've seen many other referees stop the fight between rounds. I am of the mindset that yourself, myself, and the rest of the fans were very happy to see that fight continue because she did fight back. I thought she won rounds 2 and 3. 1, 4, and 5 definitely go to Weili. Nonetheless, it was a split decision, a close one. However, I don't have a problem with the decision, and still I'm looking forward to seeing what's in store for Weili Zhang, quickly becoming, I guess, a people's champion in her own right, not just in China, but internationally as well, Josh.
Speaking on the people's champion, not the Brahma Bull, not that people's champion, if you smell. But anyway, before we get on to last one, we'll get on to the last fight of the night, and then we'll get on to a bit about Rob and his appearance here today at the Star. But Alex Pereira knocking Jamal Hill out in one of the greatest fashions I've ever seen. He copped a low kick to the groin from Jamal midway through the second round, and Alex has looked at Herb Dean and said, "Stop, I'm okay." 1 second later, throws a left hook at Doom and knocks Jamal Hill out cold. Finishes with the ground and pound and picks up the win. Thoughts on the people's champion? In my mind, everyone here loves Pereira. I think he's a fan favourite, and maybe he could be called the people's champion.
I would agree. I think when you look at Alex Pereira and his rise to the top so quickly, and he even spoke in his post-fight interview with Joe Rogan, he wants to move up to heavyweight, which is interesting. I am terrified of that gentleman. But going back to the finish, I don't know what was scarier, Josh, when he told Herb Dean step aside. He didn't even bother to look at Herb Dean, and I think Herb Dean wasn't going to argue with him. He told Herb Dean step aside. I don't know what was scarier, that moment or that that patented Powhatan left hook. Absolutely terrifying. And I think when you look at the amount of power and torque that guy has in such a close distance, we often talk about his height, his length, and also his reach from out wide. Obviously, those calf kicks, the jabs to the bodies to set up that left hook over the top. There was no telling what he was going to do immediately after Herb Dean stepped aside. You kind of knew he was going to go in for the kill after that. Joe Rogan made a good point. He didn't respect the power of Jamal Hill after that nut shot. He almost stood in front of him, looked him dead in the eye and said, "Look, buddy, you know what's going to happen. Let's get this over and done with quickly." absolutely terrifying, and I can't wait to see what's next. Obviously, Stephen Ursig going to Brazil to headline UFC 301 in Rio. Who knows? I think there is room for Pereira to squeeze onto that card and even probably steal a bit of the limelight away from our countrymen if they can get a main event together quick smart.
Speaking last one we'll touch on is our fellow countryman Rob Whittaker was here today at the Star Gold Coast presented by Howler, and what a day it was. Great to meet Rob, great to have him with us a part of the day. Obviously he enjoyed the fights, he was well looked after, and I guess such a big name and a big star to make the inaugural watch party here at the Star, I guess you could call it. I guess what are your thoughts on him being here today and being part of the show?
Oh look, firstly thank you to Howlerhead. None of this, absolutely none of this would have happened without you guys, Howlerhead Whiskey, Howlerhead AU. And obviously the support that you guys give us here at the Star Gold Coast is incredible. So thank you very much. Thank you to you for offering to cover the event. We had a few people put their hands up when I announced that we would be having a watch party, and I'm grateful that you guys put in the time. You and the team are fantastic. Look, Rob's a fantastic fighter. He's an even better person. And I think when we checked him into the hotel yesterday, the first thing that shocked me was how big he was. The second thing that amazed me was how down to earth he was. And I think that leading up to this, we were hit and miss as to whether this was even going to happen, even though we've told Rob to come up from Sydney. We're going to promise you the world and hopefully deliver. I think we did just that. And like you said, this is one of many watch parties we're hoping to continue here at the Star Gold Coast. The fan base here on the Gold Coast is massive. And I think when we look at the Star, not just as a casino, but as an events and entertainment, I guess, arena, we're looking at doing more and more of these. So stay tuned for many more updates as to who will be coming to the next one. I can guarantee you, Stephen Ursig, if he brings that belt home, we're going to try and get him here to the Star for possibly the UFC 305 watch party, which will be a big card as well, Josh. So thank you so much for your input. Thank you, Howlerhead. And most importantly, thank you to the fans for making this all possible. I hope Rob had a good time. I'm sure he did. And thank you to Rob Whittaker and the team coming up from Sydney today. It was amazing.
It was amazing. And we'll wrap this up. So thank you guys for watching and tuning along for our coverage today. And obviously a fantastic UFC 300, one we won't forget. We'll see you all at UFC 400 in about 8 years' time. Until then, we'll see you soon.